Joining us at the Innovation Cafe is our very own Kris Abel, and he is brought to you today by KOBO, Open Up. But we're going to start talking about the Highway of Tears, which is a story I've covered for a long time.
Yeah, it's sad.
Very.
Very sad. And we're talking about Lisa Jackson, who's an Indigenous filmmaker here in Toronto, and she's been commissioned by the CBC to create a virtual reality experience around the Highway of Tears. For those who aren't familiar, this is a section of highway in British Columbia that since the 1970s, there have been at least 18 women, mainly Native, who have gone missing or have been murdered, and that's the number that the RCMP has. The locals, of course, say it's closer to about 50.
50, yeah.
Yeah. And so my first question to her was, how on earth do you make a virtual reality experience about this? That seems like a bit of a challenge.
Seems scary, too.
And the answer that she said is it's all about location.
The term needle in a haystack is used in the piece, which is that when people go missing along the stretch, there's really not a lot happening there. So it's very, quote unquote, isolated. By the same token, I'm an Indigenous filmmaker, and I notice that a lot of times in the mainstream media, the perspective shift is required to sort of look at it from an Indigenous perspective, which is that for the Native folks around there, the Highway of Tears is ground zero for them. That's where they come from. That's where their communities are, and it's not an isolated stretch somewhere out beyond. It's the very center of where their ancestors have always been. It ended up being somewhat chilling in some respects because we weren't making it into a tourism video, but it is gorgeous. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. There's mountains, it's green, it's just stunning up there. We were able to use aerial 360-degree video footage, so you can look around from the sky above the highway and just see this gorgeous landscape, and then you look down and there's this ribbon of this highway, which most of the time has no cars going on it. So it is a little bit of a desolate situation.
And to give you a real sense of narrative, she actually moves into one of the homes of one of the mothers involved in this case.
The idea wasn't that we were going to explain the entire story of the Highway of Tears, but it was to take us into the experience of this one woman. Matilda Wilson is the mother of Ramona Wilson, who was murdered on the highway. It was about, I think, just over 20 years ago. Through this story, we get a sense of the details and the texture of one mother's loss, and I think that helps bring to life the issue times however many people have gone missing, to humanize it and take it beyond the headlines. I've been to a lot of homes up in this area on reserves, and they're kind of unique because they're just plastered with family photos in a way that you don't see very often. It's fairly unique to, I'd say, Native homes across the country, and particularly homes on the reserve. And so her place was no exception, and we went into it. It was a modest home, but on every wall was not only photographs of all her large family, but also tributes to Elvis and beautiful, it was just such a colorful space. So one thing that having it in VR allowed us to do, when we interviewed her, we have a part of the piece where we're just with her and we get to see her talk, but we also get to look all around her space and see this incredible home that she's built.
So where can you see this?
So it's going to be available at the Imaginative Media Arts and Film Festival that's coming up on the 19th. That's here in Toronto. And then the CBC is going to be taking a little tour across the country where they're going to hold town hall style meetings. People can put on headsets and then later on participate in a discussion of what's going on. I want to go into Matilda's home. It sounds nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I've always wanted to do this, but I would be terrified. I actually watched the Stormchasers when they flew right into the eye of Hurricane Matthew the other day. I was blown away at why.
I'm kind of right there with you. Yeah. So yes, I got to meet up with George Kourounis. I mean, the cool thing about our sponsor is that the Aura One, their latest reader, is waterproof, and waterproof inside and out. So there's a sealant inside on the circuits. And I thought, who would need something that George Kourounis, Stormchaser, would definitely need something like this. I saw him at the premiere of Wild Weather, a new exhibit at the Ontario Film Science Centre, and caught him just before he took off for Hurricane Matthew.
Really?
Yeah. And so I asked him, okay, do you use paper in the rain? How do you protect your gadgets? Here's what he said.
I love paper maps. I really do. I always carry a paper atlas in my car because I love taking it out and throwing it on the hood and looking at it. I'll never get rid of my paper maps. But at the same time, I'm running GPS, I'm running tablets, I'm running my smartphone, I'm running a laptop. So technology has gotten to the point where you don't need as many gadgets because the gadgets that you have do much more. So I can pull out my tablet and I can get weather forecasts, I can look at radar, I can look at satellite images from orbiting satellites, all in one place. There's been times when I have been near a tornado, opened the door, and the wind has been so strong that all of my maps and GPS have been sucked out of the van, and I had to go back the next day to go searching through the cornfield to find all my stuff. I've destroyed so many cameras over the years. You name it. Sony, Canon, Nikon, Olympus. If you build it, I can break it. There's been a lot of money spent on cameras over the years.
And of course, because he spends so much of his time on the road, I had to ask him, are there any books that you love, something that you can recommend?
Well, there's two, actually. If you're into fiction, I really love The Martian. It's a fantastic book about exploration, which is kind of what I do in extreme environments, right? Here's Mark Watney trying to survive on Mars, and I can relate to a lot of the things that he is experiencing because I spend a lot of time in places that are extremely inhospitable. But in terms of nonfiction, if you're interested in weather and you want to learn more, David Phillips, who is the senior climatologist here in Canada, has a book called Blame It on the Weather, and you can learn a lot there.
Excellent. And they're probably both on KOBO.
Yes, they are.
Actually. Okay, so thank you very much. Kris Abel's Innovation Cafe was indeed brought to you by KOBO. Open up. When we come back, it's called the Center for Dreams, and we'll talk to Michelle Del Carmen about why it matters so much. This is what she said on The Jewel. KOBO makes it easier to access the stories you love and discover new ones in an instant. Over 5 million ebooks, a personalized reading experience, and points earned with every purchase. Visit kobo.com today and open up.
She might just change